Hey guys, Mark back again with you, doing a pen review. This one's going to be on the Tactile Turn Slider. Now there are two versions. There is the slider and the glider. I opted for the slider. I thought this one would be a little more pocket friendly, since I don't always roll around with a notebook or a portfolio or something like that. Most days it's just a pen in my pocket and that's that. I'll keep this short and simple because there is a very thorough and a very well executed review done by Clicky Post. I'll put a link below. But let's get into it. Of course, I had to order the copper. Will had a ton of selections up there. There was like a Damascus or zirconium. There was stainless steel, brass, copper, and I think like one or two other versions. And then for each one of those finishes, he was making two sizes. The glider and the slider. And again, I went for the shorter one simply because I wear my pens in my pocket most days. That's where the pen is. If I have a notebook that day, that's fine, but like I said, for the most part, it's in my pocket. So we'll go through the pen. I'll tell you what I like, I'll tell you what I don't like. Alright, so let's get a weight on this one here. Zero it out. Alright. And we're just over 2 ounces. 2.05. Not bad for a weight like copper and the fact that it's a pretty solid pen. So the first thing I notice is the Tactile Turn finish. What Tactile Turn is famous for is the very fine ridge line that they put on the outside of the pen. Now, it's not horribly aggressive. It's just enough to where you definitely feel the rigid lines roll up against the lines of your fingerprint, which it's a nice touch. It's different. I have a lot of smooth pens, or I have a lot of pens that have knurling, just in this section, the grip section. I've wanted a Tactile Turn for quite a while, but for some reason I always seem to miss the Kickstarter campaigns, and by the time it goes to the website, they're pretty expensive. I mean, as far as a daily use pen goes, maybe if I spent less money for other gear items, for pens, since I have a lot of them and I'm usually pretty rough on them, for me, I can't see a reason to spend a lot of money for something that I know I'm just going to tear up. And you make the argument, well, don't use your items so hard, but for me, whether it's my carry pistol or a flashlight or a pen or a pocket knife or something like that, I have to go into it looking at the item as a tool, and as such I intend to use it to its fullest degree, whether that's pushing it to its limits or using it in a daily situation or using it for its unintended purposes. So by that I mean, a lot of times I'll just use a pocket knife to turn a screw, or use a pen to fiddle something loose, or to press in a button if I can't reach it with my hand, or something other than what it was intended to be used. But I thought this would be cool. I've always wanted a bolt style pen, but all of the bolt style pens that I really liked were well over $100, and I saw this one and I jumped on it. So the design for this one is supposed to be ergonomically I don't know, ergonomically fit, ergonomically sound. Okay, so you can see here the slider, the bolt movement is in this little half moon shape, and then it clicks right about there, and then there's your release. It doesn't hit the top piece of this bezel. It doesn't slap right here into the corner. It's pretty quiet. And again, this is something that I have to rave about. It's attention to detail. So what do I mean when I say attention to detail? This is machined superbly. So the pin is in 3 parts. So you've got the back end here, the cap, you've got the barrel, and then you've got the grip section up here. But if you notice, really the only line you can pick up on is back here, and that's just barely. But if I give it a little twist, okay, so these come shipped with the Schmidt insert, which I like Schmidt. Schmidt works. Machining is fantastic on all parts. Everything fits very well. Everything threads smoothly. So there's a little O-ring down at the front. So when they make the matchup, there's just enough resistance that it stays closed and it stays pretty tight and the seam disappears. I love that. And if we look on the inside, so at the end of the Kickstarter campaign, when they were sending out hey, you're about to get your shipment, blah, 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 blah. He had a little note in there that said, if you would like to use these pins with a Fisher space pin insert, let him know. The reason being is a lot of these pins will take a multitude of inserts, but the Fisher space pin right here is just flared a little bit more than most inserts. And for that simple reason, you're probably not going to be able to tell, but when you look down in there, there's a little step right at the tip. The reason for the step is to, when your pen is out for its writing, that the tip doesn't wallow around in there. I've had pins, I've had way lesser value pins, and I've swapped out the insert for something that I really like, whether it's a Pilot P2, Pilot G2 insert, the gels, or like I said, a Schmidt insert, or whatever I liked. It didn't always fit very well down here, and when I would go to write, it would click. And for some reason that would drive me crazy because the fitment, and again, this is just probably me being, stupid about my items, but it was just enough that it either made me go back to using the original insert or not using that pin at all. Okay, moving on. So we've got the actual piston part that moves on the inside. So the only part that makes this whole action work is the spring. This spring fits down here, provides resistance for, well, it provides enough resistance that it moves the actual piston. And it moves it very well. It's not overpowered. It is just enough powered. So without that, this moves freely, and if I wanted to, the bolt itself unscrews out of this, and you could totally break down this pin and clean it. You unscrew the back cap, and the rest of the inside comes out this way. The reason I won't be demonstrating that is because Will, the owner of Tactile Turn, the guy that makes all of these in his shop, on his lathe and his CNC machines, everything's done here in Dallas. It's actually a shop that's in Richardson, which is a suburb of Dallas. He was explaining that on the inside, he put a little Loctite in here to keep this piece inserted into the barrel. So that I'm not going to bother with that. I really have no reason to remove that. It's unnecessary. On the inside of the pocket clip, you can see where the name Tactile Turn has been laser etched in. Again, attention to detail. Yes, please. Okay, so what don't I like? Well, very, very little. I gotta say, I like this pin a lot. The pocket clip is pretty rigid, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but for my purposes, sometimes I slip this onto my shirt pocket, and I think with the textured outside of the pin and the rigidity of this pocket clip, it may tear up some pockets. And the only other thing that I have is about 23% of the time, the bolt sticks halfway through actuating the pin. And I figured out the reason behind that. Okay, so it kind of stuck just now. So there it is. So you can see I'm clearly clicking on it, and it has to do with the angle that you hold the pin. And it's not necessarily a big thing, but it's something that I notice. So there, it's stuck again. And I know what the cause is, and I assume this will be different for the different refills that you use in your pen, and this will never show up on camera, but if you look down inside the tip of the pen, there is a flat step that the pen rides in for stability. Well, if you notice, right here, depending on your type of refill that you're using, there's just a little ridge. And it's going to be like that with most refills that you use. It's where the tip of the pen that holds the ballpoint in connects with the rest of the ink barrel or ink cavity or whatever you want to call it. This ridge is hitting on the inside of that little step. Now there are 3 ways to deal with this. I can either find a different insert with a less pronounced ridge here. I can put a little jeweler's file down inside and lightly smooth out the edge of that step. It's a solid step and it's just right at the edge. Or I can deal with it. Like I said, it's not a huge deal for me. It's only happening like I said, 20 to 25% of the time, and it's not that big a deal. You can either deal with it or you can try and fix it. For me, I'll deal with it, and then if I find a refill, I'll probably look for a refill with a different step there. But that was all I had. The rest of the pen, I love it. It's fantastic, and I would actually buy more in the future. I'm not sure about the longer length one. I don't see much use for that one. I have a couple of larger pens, and this size seems to fit my hand and my everyday needs. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I would highly suggest either clicking the link below and going to the Clicky Post and checking out his review, or going directly to the website for Tactile Turn and checking these out for yourself. Thanks for watching. I hope that was useful. And like I said, if you have any questions, just let me know.